Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, bringing you the low quality content you deserve, and today I will be showing off Gym Knight Norleras. Now, Norleras, Skyscorch Norleras, there are some cards in this game that are like the epitome of troll combo, like the Arcana Force the World is an example, and there's like a few other examples, but every now and again, there's like this monster that's so iconic for just trolling, and Skyscorch Norleras is one of them. So, one thing I find very interesting is Norleras has like always been like a troll control deck. Like it's almost always been around to some degree. Back when it was like in 2008, 2009, you would like use Dark Greffers and Armageddon Knights to send it and then copy it with Phantom of Chaos. But over time, we had like actual topping Burning Abyss list using it in like 2016. There were Fluffle decks that would use it. And when I say use it, I mean actually summon the monster. Because like as the game moved on, it was much easier to fill the graveyard with the actual specified materials quickly. And we even now have a one-card combo with Tour Guide that sets it up. But I wanted to do Gym Knights because there is one thing about Norleras that is the critical weakness of the card, is that it nullifies the game state to its one interaction where you draw one card. So the entire game is reset to you draw a new card and there's nothing else in play. So what you would do to combo with it back then is like you would want to pitch like a Dark Nephthys because it would come back on the next turn and then just apply pressure. Like you needed to play monsters that can tag themselves out of the way to Norleras nuking everything. And as it turns out, we've been getting very good examples of these. So for this quick combo, all we need is Crystal Rose, which could be any Gym Knight starter, and Tour Guide from the Underworld. We will go ahead, Crystal Rose, dump Nephrium, whichever. We'll toss a card to summon it, and that will get us a new Gym Knight card, which of course will get Dispersion #1 to search Hollow Core to dump Gym Knight Fusion. So this can be a Rhoda and a Shadal Fusion. And you can use both effects per turn, so we are going to link these two off into Quartz, and Quartz will go ahead and add us another Gym Knight card, which will be Dispersion, which we will then activate to go ahead and do it again, and we will dump a Light and a Gym Knight for Seraphinite, and then on summon #5, we basically have Nibiru immunity, because we have all these Gym Knights engraved to Negate whatever. And the reason you like Rhoda use one of the Rhodas is because if you didn't, you'd only accumulate one in the grave, and Hollow Core can actually banish these for its Negate, so you can keep a good amount of materials in grave. Next, because we were given an additional normal summon, we will normal summon Tour Guide. Now you might be asking, Tour Guide and a Gym Knight starter sounds pretty specific, but it doesn't actually have to be set up that specific. It's just like, there are so many ways to get Norleras, so we will go ahead and get Doomdog, and then we will link these two off into Cherubini, and then the Doomdog will search any level 8 Fiend in the entire game. I was thinking about also doing the new Diabell Star level 8, because it's one of those monsters that can just summon itself out of graveyard, and it's a quick effect pop every turn by paying half your life, and that's just really cool. But it's just another option. Like I said, after you Norleras, it's not good enough to just Norleras and call it a day. You have to have monsters that'll either tag themselves out or just benefit all from being in the graveyard. And you want to do that because you don't know if your opponent is going to have stuff in the graveyard. Like if they dump some Orcus monsters, you want to still like make something after you Norleras. Next, we will go ahead and use Cherubini, and we will go ahead and dump Graf, and Graf will summon Farfa. Farfa will die, and then we will target the Seraphinite, and that will get banished. This is banished until the end phase, so I think you can know where this is going. Next, we are going to banish a Nephrium for Gym Knight Fusion. Then we are going to activate Phantom Quartz, pay 1,000, and we are going to shuffle these two back. So we still have the Omni-Negate. Like right here, even if they Nibiru us, we can still Norleras, so it doesn't really matter. And now we have the Omni-Negate back online, so it again doesn't matter. Next, we will link these two off into Nightmare Unicorn, and then we will link those two off into Abal. Now, like I said, this is probably the one tool Norleras got that is an undebatable, factual, will be in any troll Norleras deck for the rest of time, for a very simple reason. Like I said, we want monsters that can tag themselves out, And that's exactly what this monster does. So next, we will go ahead and special Crystal Rose, and we are just going to have a field day by dumping as many Gem Knight monsters as we can. So we will dump another Hollow Core. Then we will link these two off into SP Little Knight, and then we will banish this Fusion to special summon the Crystal Rose back with its own effect. Fun fact about this card, it can actually banish any Fusion to summon itself out of grave. So I want to test with Gem Knights again sometime in the future and play some much more goofy stuff. But regardless, Crystal Rose will dump, yet another Gem Knight. And then we will go ahead and special summon Norleras by banishing 3 Fiends, which will be the Unicorn, the Farfa, the Graph, and then a Light Fairy, which will be one of the 2 Nephraims in grave. And now we will pay 1,000 life points, which we're down 2,000, because we also had to pay 1,000 for Phantom Quartz. And now if they, like I said, if they Nibiru anything here, it literally doesn't matter. So the only way they can Nibiru you, which, by the way, this line, if we had another extender, we still could have made that not matter. But if they Veiler or Imperm this, we just tag out the Norleras and itself for SP, so they get nuked and we still have an SP and Norleras on their turn to opening up 1 card. So having SP here in this exact moment means just it doesn't matter. Like, it's very hard for them to do anything. And even regardless, even if they Nibiru right on summon, you're tagging out with SP to hit, and Nibiru's hitting exactly this. So you'll have an SP, a Bow, and an Omni Negate into their turn. Like, it's just like, that's one of the funny things about this. It's surprisingly can Norleras your opponent through multiple hand traps, which is really funny. But regardless, let's say it resolves. Everything goes away, we draw a card. So we will have 1 random card in hand. And we can go ahead and banish Phantom Quartz to get back Gem Knight Fusion. So we have a random card plus Gem Knight Fusion. And then going back into our end phase, we get back a Bow and a Seraph Knight. And because we control a Gem Knight Fusion monster, Hollow Core is now an Omni Negate because we have enough Gem Knights in grave. So we have an Omni Negate, a Quick Pop, and then 2 random cards for their 1 single card. Even if they have resources in graveyard, a Quick Pop and a Seraph Knight is still a lot to deal with. So yeah, that's basically the combo I wanted to demonstrate. So once we see in the deck list, you'll understand why there's like a lot of choices like this. But let's get into it. All right, for the deck list, obviously when Norleras, searchable in multiple different ways. You have Chaos Space and whatnot, but you have Tour Guide and Doom Dog. You can even Foolish Burial the Doom Dog, and that will allow you to summon it back with A-Bow and then link it off, Norleras, all the cool stuff. But regardless, you only need 1. And you're actually summoning it, so playing multiple doesn't really have any value anyways. And then the Gem Knight package, 3 Hollow Core with just 1 of its associated Garnet. Yeah, I guess if you draw it, drawing Gem Knight Fusion alone is kind of bad unless you have like a Gem Knight and a Light, which that's still fine. It's only bad if you draw a Hollow Core, no Lights, and Gem Knight Fusion, because then you just like can't make anything. But outside of that exact hand, you can play out of drawing the Gem Knight Fusion, so that doesn't matter. Nephraium. This is a starter. Foolish Burial is also a starter, and White Crystal Rose is also a starter. And then same with Crystal Rose. So with the 3 Rotas, 3 Nephraium, Foolish, and then Crystal Rose, you're like given 10 starters to this Gem Knight package. And the reason it even clicked in my head to try this deck is like, you know, it's weird that Gem Knights were given a Dark Fiend and a Light Fairy, and they, in like their most common fusion that you're making with the new package is Seraph Knight, which is an Earth Fairy. Man, it's like totally reminds me of like the Sky Scorch monsters, and I was like, hey, what if I put Norleras in this deck? And as it turns out, not only is there like a shocking amount of synergy, but like the win condition just so for Norleras itself improved by putting those cards in there. And I thought that was so hilarious that worked out, because that was totally a meme choice. Like, I didn't expect anything from it, and this is probably the best Norleras deck I've ever played. Like, it's 100% like that. So that's it for the Gem Knight stuff. So there's like 3, 6, 9, 10 starters for Gem Knight, and then the Hollow Core is just like a monster that summons itself, which is still really good. Then we got Triple Tour Guide, Doom Dog, and then the Burning Abyss package. So you do not need to play Skarm at all. And it's only in here for the option to, like, if it's sent, like, it searches a monster in phase, so it obviously dodges Norleras. But that's about it. And more importantly, I'm not sure about the Seer, because it's only good when you can make the Artifact link, which I'm playing Mirage Light. So Tour Guide, I think without the Artifact, is really hard to make a 1-card Norleras. But regardless, Mirage Light still comes up a lot more than that, so it's still a pretty solid choice. So, Seer, Graph, these two just generate more bodies. Skarm is a search that can dodge Norleras, and Farfa can make any monster on board dodge Norleras, and then, like, it's also a disruption if you discard it on your opponent's turn with Avow, which actually does come up, because if you didn't need to send off a... What's it called for... Or, like, if you banished a thing with Farfa, if you made a fusion dodge Norleras, and then you also sent a Skarm, during the end phase, you can actually search Seer, which that allows you to discard the Seer to get a pop. The Seer will revive the Farfa, which gets a banish, and you'll still have your Omni Negate online, so it just, like, randomly makes an extra disruption on your opponent's one card, by the way. And then we have Bystials, one of each of the good ones. You could probably do a little bit more. I wouldn't overdo it because these cards they only have a small amount of synergy with what you're doing. Like, there are some boards where you, like, want an extender so you can keep the Omni up the whole time. So, like, obviously they're good, but you don't want to flood your hand with them because Bystials are pretty tricky because they're really good hand traps, but if your opponent just doesn't play the attributes for them, they can really do very little and just clog your hand for no reason. And while you do get the benefits of Regained, they're not that crazy, in all truth. And the reason they're in here at all, the same with the Dark Creator, and I'll get into that in a moment, is if you can't Norleras your opponent or don't want to because they're revealing a lot of graveyard cards, or you're just going second, you need to play actual games with this deck. Like, it might not look like it, but a lot of the, like, game one choices, I know I don't have a side deck, just ignore that. A lot of the game one choices are to where you could play an actual game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Without ever trolling your opponent. And that's kind of the way you want to approach this deck, is, like, Norleras is a really solid, fairly consistent win condition, but your deck needs to, like, do some pretty good stuff without ever needing to use this. And Bystials help with that a lot. And then finally, 2 Chaos Creators. So, if I didn't play this, it means the only Chaos search target is Norleras. Well, that's neat. That's not very reliable, and Chaos Creator is really cool in here, because this card only really works if you play a deck that organically banishes stuff already. And Gem Knights obviously do that with Gem Knight Fusion, but, like, your Hollow Core banishes, this banishes, and even though it takes a Light and Dark to summon, it can summon any banished monster. That can include, like, a Seraphonite, which is an Earth, and a Phantom Quartz, just because they're banished. That's all that matters, is once it's banished, there's a live target for Chaos Creator, and it also means you don't have to play too many Gem Knight extra deck monsters, if you don't want to be locked out of extra deck plays on the following turn. So that's pretty cool. It's also a Thunder if you wanted to play Prismara, but you don't really see it enough for that to matter. Next for the spells, Triple Allure. It's a good way to bait Ash, that's really why it's in here. Triple Dispersion, which is both a Rhoda and a Shaddoll fusion, and you get to use both effects on the same turn, which is stupid. This is one of the most stupid spells ever printed. That is an effect that should not be on a spell card. What the hell? Ready Fusion? So this card is funny, because like I said, Crystal Rose only needs to banish a fusion monster to summon itself. Doesn't need to be Gem Knight, doesn't need to be Melodious, it's just a fusion monster. So if you just play Ready Fusion as a random extender to make, like, rank 6s, which I'm not playing, Synchros, which I'm playing very little of, or Chaos Angel, which you can do with Soul Hunter and Neprium, you can, like, banish just an instant fusion target to summon this back and generate more resources, and I find that very hilarious. It also is like, if you wanted to take this deck an extra step more real, you could put Fiendsmith cards in here, even though they're light fiends, so they don't use Norleras. The Fiendsmith combo generates Necroquip, the fusion, and you can just banish that, which is hilarious. Like, there's so many cool things you can do just because it banishes a fusion monster. And then Mechaba, I'm still on the spells, what am I doing? Branded Regain for Bystial stuff. Chaos Space, because if you Chaos Space toss this, that is such an incredible starting play. It's insane, because this summons itself after you do that. So you get a Chaos monster, and then you start your engine without normal summoning, which is insane. Called by the Grave, because it should be banned. Foolish Burial, because it's a starter and should be banned. Gem Knight Fusion, because it's Phoenix Blade. I think I have Fusion summoned with this a few times. And then finally, Invocation. So this is much more of a card for when you have to play actual games. The Gem Knight standard combo, I guess you could call it. You end up summoning the second fusion, and when you do that, you can make what's it called? Invoker of Madness first, and when you summon that second fusion, you just get Invocation, and then you can link this off into Unicorn, and then link the Phantom in Unicorn into Abao, and then you can just fusion summon Mechaba, and then just do a lot from there. So yeah, that's pretty solid. Like I said, it's much more for when you actually have to play real games. And then for the extra deck, 2 Seraphonite, Soul Hunter, Vanity, Mechaba, Dispater, Chaos Angel, Phantom Quartz, Cherubini for it, Azalea, and SP Little Knight. Something I've come to the recent conclusion of, if you're playing a light and dark deck, there's no concession on playing one or the other, you can just play both. And I'm not gonna lie, if I were to make this deck extra real, like, stop with the troll nonsense, I'd probably, even if like 5 to 6 extra deck spots are taken up for Fiendsmith, I'd probably still play this. This card really catches a lot of people off guard, and it's really cool. And then SP, obvious. It is a card that could technically allow some dodging, but it's only if your opponent doesn't read the situation where Norleras and SP are going to be on board. That's the only time, like if they just stop thinking. And then Herald of Mirage Lights. Even though it's a little trickier to utilize in this deck, it's still an option, and it generates a Light Fairy for the graveyard, and technically, it can be made with really just any matching type attribute, so you can use like a Tour Guide, a Burning Abyss that's pointing to Cherubini, and then like a Hollow Core, and if you end up with this in hand, you have a spell Trap Negate, like that could come up, maybe. Nightmare Unicorn, this is how you can turn what are not fiends into fiends for Abao, and it generates another Dark Fiend for Norleras. And then finally, Alistair and Abao, which is, Abao is like the reason I decided to even look in the general vicinity of Norleras again, because it's the most complimentary Sky Scorch Norleras card that has ever been printed. It is better than Dark Nephthys, it is better than the Fluffle cards, and it is better than that Link that's just unaffected by monster effects. Like this, it's incredible. Like, this is everything that's ever been wanted from the, what's it called? When you would play a deck trying to summon Norleras, is like so complimentary to how that playstyle actually works. It's incredible. But that's gonna be it for me. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoy this troll deck. No other way to describe it. I think it is hilarious. I came up on it on accident, and I figured I'd show you, and maybe you will have a fun time ripping a card, ripping your opponent's hand to shreds, and then like summoning 2 interactions regardless. But we'll see. That's gonna be it for me. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master Dinner Flex will take your soul.